The first book of Samuel, session 44. We looked at a little bit of a controversial subject the previous time. Are we allowed to lie? And of course, if we go through the Bible, it's almost like 98% of people that has lived godly lives, that has been used by Yhwh, did not lie. And even the people that, has lied a little bit, a white lie here or a really big lie there, the rest of their lives are not identified as a life of lies. So please make sure that you understand. The 9th commandment does say that we cannot bear false witness. But there is a thread throughout Scripture, like we said, even in the New Testament, where people lied to the soldiers that was looking to kill Paul or Peter or John. Apologies. We see how they didn't tell the 100% the truth. Is it regarded as a lie when somebody asks you, have you seen Peter? Is he hiding in your house? Peter is hiding in my house. No, I haven't seen Peter. And also if we look at David lied to a priest. How bad can you get? We find a lady called Jael. If you did the 2-3 studies in the book of Judges, you'll get to know how Jael is an amazing end-time bride symbol. How she really represents the bride of Yeshua and how she killed Sisera. But first of all, she lied to him. He came hiding in a tent and she said, he wanted some water. And she said, no, man, come in. Wonderful man, Sisera, I will not give you water, I'll give you milk. And he wanted a piece of bread or something, and she gave him a whole meal. And she made him fall asleep on her lap. Not only was he looking for a hiding place, but she made him extremely comfortable. Why was she doing it? Why was she giving him milk and food and even allowed him to fall asleep on her lap? Because, he was dirty and he was afraid. He was running away from Deborah and Balak because they wanted to kill him. Sisera was this Antichrist figure in the battle between these two nations in the book of Judges. And he was running away. He was afraid for his life. He was tired and hungry and thirsty and just at the end of his wits. And she was like a mother hen, and she clucked around him. Come in, Sisera, come hide here. You'll be safe. Here is some milk and cookies, my boy. Fall asleep on my lap, my boy. And the moment he started snoring, what did she do? She took a nail, a tent pen, and she whacked it through his head, and she killed him. Just like Deborah prophesied when Balak didn't want to go to the battle alone, and he said, you must come with me, my lady. And she said, well, because you don't have enough guts, you don't have enough trust in Yhwh to go alone, the battle will belong to a woman. And this woman, the battle of Yhwh, belongs to his bride. But his bride lied to the Antichrist figure, to Sisera. Come in, you'll be safe. He didn't see the nail and the hammer in her hand, did he? If she had told him, come in, I'll give you milk instead of water. I'll let you sleep on my lap instead of just on the ground. But once you snore, I'm going to have to kill you because you are our enemy. If she had told him the truth, if she had been 100% truther, Sisera would have killed her there and then the battle would not have belonged to a woman. We find Esther, beautiful Queen Esther, Hadassah. She didn't tell anybody in the palace for a long time that she was a Jew. She was from the tribe of Judah. How do we know this? Well, first of all, when all the beautiful girls of the Babylonian area were summoned to the palace, they stayed there for 1 whole year. Just, preparing with creams and ointments and perfumes and blah, 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 to get ready for the king to choose a new queen, right? By the time she got married, by the time she went through the whole ordeal with Mordecai and Haman, by the time she finally sat at the second dinner that she gave to Haman and the king, It was only then, I'm not 100% sure how many years from the time she came to the palace in the first instance, but for how many years did she not tell the truth about who she is? The king didn't know that she was a Jew. She told him that night, Haman wants to kill the Jews, and I am a Jew, so that means Haman wants to kill me. And for the first time, the king and all the palace heard the queen was a Jew. And that's we're going to get to Esther. What an amazing story. We also find another woman, Judith. She's not in the Bible. It's one of those apocryphal books, but it's beautiful. What Judith did. It's a massive army that encamped against Israel. It was also at that time where the tribe of Judah and Benjamin was in Jerusalem. And eventually, there was no more food and water, nothing left, and the people inside the city walls were starving. And Judith was beautiful. She was a widow. Her husband died. Long story. But eventually she said, leave it in my hands. And she fasted and prayed. And then she asked God to be with her. And then what did she do? She put some makeup on and she dressed herself in beautiful clothes. And she put all her earrings and her rings and her necklaces and everything. She made herself absolutely gorgeous. Very similar to what was her name? Tamar. Tamar, the mother of, what was his name? Peleg. Can't remember the other boy's name. But the two sons of Judah. After the first two sons died, then he married Tamar. She was his daughter-in-law, but he didn't know that. When he came around the bend, there was this beautiful prostitute, and then he slept with her. And months later, he heard that his daughter-in-law, who was supposed to keep herself pure, was pregnant, and then they wanted to kill her because of the Torah commandment. And then she revealed, you stupid old man, it was you all along. Anyway, but she lied. The grandmother of King David, great-grandmother of Yeshua, she lied. She pretended to be a prostitute. And Judith pretended to be this beautiful woman. She went into the enemy's camp and she basically seduced the leader, who was a great man, massive Antichrist figure. And she chopped off his head. Oh, these women. And here David, let's continue with David. Where did we end? Verse 5 now. So the priest gave David and his fellows their hallowed bread. For there was no bread there but the showbread that was taken from before Yhwh to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. So you remember that I told you in the previous session, the 12 pieces of showbread is replaced every 7 days. So I'm just looking at the amazing coincidence of this exact day when David came to the priest and he was hungry, and it was actually coincidentally the 7th day where the previous bread was taken down and new bread was put into the tabernacle on the table of showbread. And what becomes holy to Yhwh is also for the sustenance of Yahweh's people. Because like Yeshua said in the New Testament, David was allowed to eat this bread, although he wasn't a priest. Because what is more important for Yhwh? That you, like the Pharisees, that's why Yeshua had such an issue with the Pharisees, that you keep his Torah to the letter, but you destroy another human being. You keep the Torah to the letter by not allowing David, who's dying of hunger, to eat the showbread, but then David dies, and then Yeshua's whole bloodline dies, and then the rest of the Bible would never have been written. God's purposes is much bigger than our narrow-mindedness according to the law. And you know that I, for one, am very ardent about the law. And I hate it when people say, you can break the law here and there. You can surely eat a piece of pork if you're really hungry. God will understand. My life is more important than keeping the commandments. I'm not standing for that for 1 second, no. But somewhere there is this golden thread throughout the lives of David, Jael, Tamar, Judith, and Esther, where we see that the people that knows and understands and walks in the ways of God and of His bigger plan and His bigger agenda, when there comes a time to stand for the truth, you might be allowed to hide the truth momentarily. Not in order to save your own ass. It's not about your own ass saving. It's about the kingdom of God surviving, thriving, and being restored. It's about God's people. And you can hide the truth. We're going to look at how David hid the truth again. And you're going to survive through the ordeal so that God's bigger plan can indeed be accomplished. And this is not up to you and me to decide. We can't go around every corner and say, I think I'm going to tell this lie now just so that it's for the greater glory of God. I'm doing this for God. You know very well when you are lying to save your own ass. And when you get to the situation where David, Jael, and Esther and all these other people were in, and it's about something much bigger than just about you, then for me, evidently from the scriptures, I can see there is periods where it is allowed. Now, a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before Yhwh, and his name was Doeg, and he was an Edomite, so he was from Edom, a descendant of Esau, a descendant of Esau, ne? The chiefest of the herdmen that belonged to Saul. All right, so this is something interesting. We are going to look at Doeg a little bit later on. But for now, we see that the Bible tells us there was, while David was pretending and lying about being a spy, there really was a spy that heard and saw everything that happened between David and the priest. And David said to Ahimelech, and is there not here under your hand a spear or a sword for me to use? Because I've brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. David, you're lying again. You are telling the priest, Ahimelech, that you don't have any weapons with you, because the king told you, go right now, the business is so urgent, you must leave, you can't even go to your house to go fetch your sword. The reason he couldn't go to his house to go fetch his sword is because there was an idol lying in his bed. How can David now walk around there? He wasn't allowed to go back anywhere to go fetch nothing. So he came with empty hands and he lied and he said it was the king who said, just go as quickly as you can. Don't waste any time. And the priest said, the sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom you slew in the valley of Elah, behold, I have the sword here, wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you will take that, take it, for there's no other weapons here with me. Hello, I'm a priest. And David said, there is nothing like it. Give it to me. So again, another coincidence. He got bread on exactly the day that bread became available out of the tabernacle. And coincidentally, the weapon that he used to kill the enemy with, the weapon that was meant for the defeat of Goliath and the Philistines, became holy in the hands of the priest, being kept safely for this day, when lying David, deceiving David, God's beloved, the man after God's heart, is fleeing for his life, and he needs a weapon so that he continue to carry the seed of God's royal line and survive so that he can become king, and also survive to write all the other psalms that he wrote. Our lives would have been so empty without the psalms. So another lie caused the priest to give David the sword as well, like he gave him the bread. And David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, and he went to Achish, the king of Gath. This is a little bit weird for me now. If we go back to chapter 17, verse 4, there went a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath. So here in chapter 21, David arose and fled that day and went to King Achish, the king of Gath. All right, so here comes David. Tra-la-la-la-la. How's it, King Achish? I just killed your big giant, your champion the other day. Do you remember me? How's it? It's David. And yeah, you are right. Here in my hand, I even have Goliath's sword. The very sword that still has the bloodstains of Goliath's neck on it. Why did he choose to go to Gath? Why did he choose to go to the enemy's camp? How is in this instance, for me, David is representing the end time people of God, fleeing from Saul, having a kind of covenant with Jonathan, being sustained by our high priest Yeshua, who gives us the bread of life and maybe some manna or some showbread, who knows? Giving us a sword, the same tools the enemy wants to use to kill and destroy us, giving us the enemy stuff into our hand, allowing us a little bit of mixing of truth, you know, a little bit of lying, I don't know, here and there, so that we can get to the point of being allowed, because it's not only in this chapter, but many other chapters we'll see, how David is actually working with the enemy. There's a long period in David's life where he's even accused by Israel that he has joined the enemy. Here he's going to King Achish of Gath. He's looking for a safe place to stay. But there's a problem. We're going to look at it now. But later on you'll see that he joined the enemy camps and ranks again. He even fought in battles with the enemy. He even did mighty things and helped the enemy and brought their prisoners back to them and brought spoil to the enemy's king, you know, treasures from the battles. As a mighty warrior he was for Saul, he became a mighty warrior for the enemy. Is there some sort of a pointer for us in the end days? Like Daniel was taken into the lion's den. He was taken into the heart of Babylon, the end time Antichrist system. How Joseph was taken into the heart of Egypt, the sun god Antichrist beast system. And there where we are hiding the truth, filled with the bread from the showbread inside the holy tabernacle, having the tools of the enemies in our hands and having a bit of lies backing us up. Are we finding ourselves working inside the camp of the enemy? And they don't recognize us? And maybe like Mordecai said for Esther, who during the time that Babylon was actually the enemy of the Jews, and she became the freaking queen of Babylon. She was taken inside the palace, into the inner chamber, into the bed of the Babylonian king. How and what is God teaching his end time people? How will he use us? Some of us will hide in caves. Yeah. Some of us, our heads will be chopped off. Some of us will survive until the end and see Yeshua come on the clouds. And some of us might be found working with the enemy, working for the enemy, looking like we've gone mad. And yet, for a time such as this, you've been brought here, Joseph. You've been brought here, Daniel. You've been brought here, Esther. And maybe, I don't know, just maybe, Yahweh's teaching us, keep yourselves holy and pure, even while you look like a Babylonian, an Egyptian, a Philistine, a prostitute, you know, like you look, when you look like a madman. Keep yourself holy. Keep my way in your sight. Know my end goal. Know my kingdom. Because maybe I brought you to this specific position and place and time so that you can do the work that nobody else can. I don't know. I'm seeing something here. And David arose and fled that day, and the servants of Achish said unto the king, is this not frickin' David? David, the king, David, the killer of Goliath? Is not this David the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another of David? Did they not dance for him and said, Saul has slain his thousands, but David has slain his 10,000s? I see a little bit of messianic symbolism here, how the world is mocking David. Just the other day you came triumphantly into Jerusalem like Yeshua did, son of David, and he was riding on a donkey and they threw his clothes before him. So David came triumphantly into Jerusalem and they sang, Saul killed thousands, but David 10,000s, and they were dancing and singing and praising him. And now David is standing there before the king and he's afraid. He's afraid of Saul, and he's hungry and thirsty and dirty and tired. They're mocking David like they mocked Yeshua, who a few days ago was praised, and now he's standing there naked. Yeshua was afraid. Remember his sweat blood, and he was mocked, and he was probably hungry. He only ate the previous night, and he was dirty and full of blood, and they mocked him like they did David. And then David realized, you know what, I don't think I'm going to get safe haven here. I need to cook up another lie. So David laid up these words that he heard in his heart, and he was then also afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So he's between a rock and a hard place. He's got Saul that he's afraid of, and now he thought he was going to get a bit of sympathy from King Achish, but he can hear clearly from his servants that is reminding the king who the hell this man is. He's not going to get sympathy or a hearty welcome here. So he quickly made another plan. Let's look at his plan. Verse 13. Listen, I can just imagine. And I hope this is going to come clearly over the voice note. David changed his behavior before them. All right, so he probably walked up straight to them. But as he came to them, he changed the way in which he walked. He changed his whole behavior. He changed how he was keeping his body and moving his body. He feigned, he pretended that he was mad. He pretended that he was crazy. And he scrabbled, he scratched at the doors of the gate. And he let his spittle fall down upon his beard. So if you can imagine this now. Here comes David. He's walking upright nicely, his head held high. He's not looking any weird at all. And the moment he realized the king is going to not be so happy to see him, because this is the man that Saul, first of all, is looking for. The whole world knows that. And secondly, this is the man that is the biggest enemy of the people that wants to fight against against the people of God. He's a fantastic warrior, and he killed Goliath. So the moment he realized that, from the one moment he was walking, left, right, with his arms swinging, his head held high, maybe a little bit of a smile on his face, looking quite normal, a normal, sane, intelligent human being. And the moment that realization came and he knew, I'm in trouble here, he started lying about being a normal person. And he started walking like a weird man, left, right, and he shuffled, and his arms wasn't swinging anymore. It started making cramp movements, and he made his hands, that was normal just a moment ago, he made his hands into claws, and he was scratching against the door like a mad, crazy person. And he was probably talking like this, like crazy people, like you see these when children mock each other. Oh, you're a crazy person. And then they make their mouths go so skew on the one side. And you can just imagine how the spit, how your spittle then falls out of this corner of your mouth where you are talking like a crazy person. I can always laugh because I can just imagine. And once when I did a Bible study about this, I actually, I mimicked what I thought David did. And I can't get this over, without you seeing me, but with all these strange noises I made, I'm sure that you can imagine for yourself. Imagine this. One moment you're walking fine, and the next moment you become all scampered up to the one side, and you look absolutely like a maniac. There's something wrong in your head. And you talk weird, and sis, man, your spit is falling out of your mouth. Sis, you're disgusting, you're crazy. And then said Achish unto his servants, Ooh, you guys, see this man is mad. Wherefore then have you brought him to me? It's disgusting, man. His spittle is falling all over my palace floors. He's probably going to pee himself next. Get him away from me. Why did you bring him to me? He's crazy, man. Have I need of a madman that you brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Did you bring this man into my house? Take him out, man. He's full of fleas. He's dirty. He's disgusting. Get him out of my sight. So what did David do? Was he mad? No, he lied. And on that day it saved his ass again. So, to sum up, I'm not approving lies. To lie, the Bible says, all liars and fornicators and those who are fearful and the warmongers and the magicians, all of them will find their place in the lake that burns with fire and brimstone. Liars will not enter into the kingdom of God. And yet we're going to see David. We're going to see Esther, Judith, Yael. Who was the other person I was thinking about? Tamar. We're going to see them in the kingdom. And yet we found them lying. We found them hiding the truth. We found them twisting the true nature of the situation. But we also find in them a wisdom, an understanding, and a survival instinct as the people of God should have to prepare them to endure in the end days. I find this, I'm not going to say comforting, because then you're going to give yourself permission to start lying. But I find this somehow, I wish I can find the word that I'm feeling. I know the feeling I have, but I don't know how to say this feeling. I find that in the kingdom of Yhwh, and in the wisdom and the understanding of Yahuwah's much bigger plan, I find a way for the people of God to stay true to Him and yet be not necessarily true to the people that are persecuting them. And maybe that's the conclusion. Maybe it means something to you. I don't know. If one day in the beast system that is busy rising, you find yourself in a situation where you don't know what to do, then you pray for Yahweh. You pray for the wisdom of David. And maybe you go right into the midst of the palace of the enemy, and there you become a queen like Esther, or a king like Joseph, or the biggest advisor like Daniel, or you become the wife of the king. Now, I'm talking spiritual now, prophetic, not real. But you find yourself in the midst of the enemy, and you don't know what to do, because you need to now witness. You must now tell them about Yeshua, and you must stand up for your faith. But sometimes you must maybe keep quiet for a long time, like Esther did, until the time arrives for you to tell the truth or to be found out by the truth. But during the time where you didn't just speak the truth to everybody that wanted to hear, maybe during that time you did more work for God's kingdom than anybody else could have done. The best placed spy in the midst of the enemy's camp, trusted by the enemy, The enemy not having a clue who you are. And from the inside, like the Trojan horse, you all know the story of the Trojan horse, taken into the city, Pompeii or something, I can't remember. And from the inside, they destroyed the city. I don't know. I know Yeshua is the one that will destroy the final enemy. But what parts does people like David and Esther and Jael and Judith and Tamar play? What part will you and I play in this end day battle?